This is a quick introduction. My name is Ariella Knight. I am the founder and CEO of the American Institute, which is an English school and a cultural exchange center in Algiers. I am originally from Boston in the Northeast. I went to college in Colorado, which is the Southwest United States. And then I did my master's in Washington, D.C., which is the Southeast. So I have been like this in the US. And then I decided, you know what, enough of this country. And I moved to Algiers. My professional background is as a program manager, a business consultant, and an English teacher. So for those of you who have heard this introduction before, you know I always say that I think business English is truly the perfect combination of my background and one of the reasons I love to teach it. So a little bit about the class. The last time we'll do this. We have had business English class now for 7 weeks. This is our 8th week. The class is every Tuesday evening from 8 to 9:30. The classes are free to attend. And here's the program we did. We started with introductions and vocabulary. We did resume writing, cover letters, interviewing, networking and elevator speeches, business etiquette and politeness, writing professional emails, and finally today is interview practice. If you missed one of these sessions and you hope to watch it again, they are all recorded and you can watch them on the U.S.Embassy Algiers YouTube page. So before we get going, we're going to do a few reminders about the class. This class is a B2 level class. This is advanced intermediate. So I will be speaking at the level for advanced intermediate. If you have a lower level than advanced intermediate, you are still welcome to join the class, but it might be slightly hard for you to understand. In this case, I recommend that you re-watch the recordings. Okay, we have a couple of different features in Zoom, which is the platform we're using right now. We have the chat function. I see all of you guys in the chat, so I think you already know what to do. In the chat, you respond to exercises, you ask questions related to the topic, you encourage each other. And I have the chat open, so I'm sort of looking at it. At times I might miss it when it's moving very quickly, but that is the chat function. Then we have the Q&A function. This one is very important. This is where you can ask questions related to the class. The ACCA admin team will respond to the Q&A. So if you ask the question in the chat, it may not get answered. I recommend you go up and you hit Q&A or Q&R if it's the French version. Some common questions that we get, I will give you the answers right now. Is there a certificate for this class? No, there is not. And is the class recorded? Yes, it is. You can view it on the U.S. Embassy Algiers YouTube page. I'm going to let the ACCA team send that link because I see a couple of different people have asked for it. Okay, how to participate on microphone. As you can see right now, you do not have the option to speak. However, at some specific points in the presentation, I will invite you to join on microphone, especially today because we're doing interview practice. So when that happens, please click the raise hand emoji and Emily from the ACCA will select you to come and join me. When you are on stage, I call it stage, when you are on stage with me, please remember to unmute your mic. And to stay brief so that we can have other people participate. Class rules, respect and civility in the chat and when you're on mic. Respectful engagement on social media. Avoid swearing, profanity, or discussion of irrelevant topics. And let's have some fun tonight. All right, are we all good? I went through this a little fast this time because I want to make sure we have enough time for interviews. I'll take a quick look in the Q&A, see if there's anything in there for me. I see someone asking for the YouTube link. I'm going to let the ACCA team send that. Great. Well, It looks like we're ready to go. So today's agenda is interview practice. Oh, we already did the overview of the class structure and rules. We will start with a quick refresher, the purpose and the structure of an interview. If you participated in the previous interview class, this will be a slight reminder or refresher. If you did not, then this will give you a nice background before we start the practice interviews. We will then have a discussion about common interview mistakes and then the practice interviews. Before we get started, we have some vocabulary on interviews, and this is also a repeat slide. So if you were with us in the last section on interviews, this will be very familiar. We have the interviewer. This is the person who interviews. So this is the hiring manager, usually, or someone from human resources. To interview is the person who is doing the interview, meaning the hiring manager interviews, or we say conduct an interview. Interviewee, this is the person being interviewed. Have an interview or do an interview. That is what we call it when you are the person who is applying for the job. So this is a quick refresher. We talked about this in our last interview class, but we're going to do it again tonight, just a little bit. So question number one, what is the purpose of an interview? Why do we have interviews? And I want you to tell me from the perspective of the interviewer. Why do we have interviews? What does the interviewer want to know? Tell me in the chat, please. Okay, we have interviews to hire somebody, good, to choose, to recruit new people, for assessment, to hire, okay, to find the perfect candidate, the most suitable person, to know more about the employee, good, to know more about the person we're interested in, to know about your personality, for evaluation, okay. To see your qualities and what assets you'd bring to the employer. Very good. Assess if the person has the required skills. Good. Perfect. All right. I'm going to show you the answers. I think you guys got them all. So from the perspective of the interviewer helps the interviewer learn about the candidate. So they have the resume. They can read about you. But they want to interview you to truly learn about you, who you are beyond the resume, to understand the personality of the candidate, and to therefore evaluate if the candidate would be what we call a good fit. All right, this is why we have interviews from the position of the interviewer. Tell me, what is the purpose of an interview for an interviewee? I mean, of course, an interview is required, but what does an interview help you do when you are applying for jobs? Why is it good for you to do an interview? To find out if the job suits me. That's right. You are also figuring out if the job is a good fit for you. To learn about the company, to sell yourself, okay, to present yourself, okay, to speak about your skills, to see if you fit for the job, okay, to know the boss, that's a very good one, to have more information, yes, to ask questions about the position, very good, to know more about the company, exactly. Check if the offer is worthy. Okay. All right. Very good. So from the perspective of the interviewee, from the perspective of the person applying for the job, the interview helps you learn about the position more than the job description. Learn about the work environment. You can look around when you arrive at the office. Is it really busy? Is it really loud? Is it really quiet? You can often meet your boss, well, your future boss if you get the job. Often the person doing the interview will be on your team or maybe your direct boss. And you can evaluate based on this information if the job is a good fit for you. So in the interview process, both the interviewer and the interviewee are evaluating, is this the right fit? And yes, of course, in an interview, you are selling yourself. You are trying to present well and get a job. Of course, we're assuming that you do want to have this job. Okay, so we're gonna quickly go over the structure of an interview. Typically, we have 5 parts to an interview. We have introductions, small talk. I just pronounced that word in a very strong American accent. I said introductions. This is how we say this in America, but you can also say introductions, small talk, Q&A, your questions, and wrapping up. Today, we are going to focus on just 2 parts of this, the Q&A and your questions. But quickly, I'm going to go through all 5 parts. The introductions part of an interview. This is the first impression. First impressions matter. Some reports, this is what I wrote at the bottom of the slide, some reports indicate that employers make hiring decisions within 30 seconds of meeting you. So the first part of the interview is extremely important. You have a smile, perhaps you shake hands, you stand tall, you make eye contact. It's supposed to be a very strong, positive first impression of you. Small talk, then you have a few small details about yourself or about your day. This is just 2 minutes. You exchange a few details before you start. You can talk about where you live, you can talk about the traffic, friends you have in common if someone referred you to the company. Again, this is really a time to just show that you can have a casual conversation, that you're a normal person and you'd be normal to work with. That's mostly what you're trying to convince someone at the beginning of an interview. Then you have the Q&A, questions and answers. This is when the interviewer is asking you about your experience and about your interests in the role. It's what we call the meat of the interview, meaning the biggest part of the interview. It includes an elevator pitch where you describe yourself, you sell yourself a little bit, and it will have questions related to your resume and your past experiences, related to the job description, and also to your personality and how you might respond to different situations. This is what we will practice today, answering common interview questions. The 4th part is your questions. As the candidate, you always want to come with 2 to 3 questions prepared. It's a bonus opportunity to impress the interviewer, and it shows that you have enthusiasm for the job. We will also focus on this part at the end, how to ask good questions in the interview. Last is wrapping up or ending the interview. You want to end on a positive note, you reinstate your interest in the position, you thank them for the invitation to come and interview at their offices. And it's also, again, similar to the introduction, it's about giving positive energy and having a nice dynamic at the end. Okay, so that is very quickly the structure of the interview. We're moving fast through this today because I want to work on practice. I think before we go to questions, I'm going to do common mistakes, and then we have a pause for questions. Here are some common interview mistakes, okay? I have the little picture of the camera if you want to take a picture, because we might not be able to get through everything on this slide, but I think these are very important to know about. Common interview mistakes: arriving late. Oof, that's a big one. Also, arriving too early. Earlier than 20 minutes early is too early. It puts pressure on the hiring manager. It can feel uncomfortable. Inappropriate attire. Dunya, congratulations on getting the job, and I'm so happy that videos helped. Inappropriate attire. Usually this means looking too casual. It's almost always better to look too formal than too casual. No jeans, no shorts, have a jacket for the interviews. Using your cell phone. This is a big no. In an interview, even using the cell phone when you're with friends or talking with family can be considered impolite. Have your cell phone in your bag and do not check it the entire interview. Not doing company research. So you're actually unfamiliar with the job and it becomes obvious. It can become obvious when you ask questions at the end, or maybe you don't have any questions, or if you're unprepared for the types of questions they would offer you. Losing your focus. This can happen when you talk for a very long time and ask a specific question. For example, what is your biggest strength? And you talk so long that you've actually stopped talking even about your strengths. You've lost your focus. We want our answers in interviews to be clear, to have examples, but not be too long that you lose your focus. Unsure of resume facts. This means that you yourself are unsure of what is on your own resume. If someone says to you, how long did you work at your last company? And you don't know the answer, now I start to question, is the resume honest? You really need to know exactly what you have written on your resume so that you are an expert on this, because they will be using this to inform their questions. So make sure you know everything on your resume. Number 7, talking too much, a little what I just talked about. Number 8, speaking poorly of previous employers. Even if someone asks you why you left a job and it was because you did not like your previous employer or because they mistreated you, it is not a good idea to speak poorly of a previous employer. It does not look good. It sounds like complaining. It sounds like you might be an employee who causes problems for your employers. There's no benefit to speaking poorly of previous employers in an interview. Number 9 is not preparing for common questions, focusing too much on yourself, not enough on the job, having no questions to ask when they ask you if you have any questions and you have nothing. It looks like you didn't do your research. And asking overly personal questions. This is completely inappropriate. First of all, the job interview isn't even about the interviewers, so personal questions shouldn't be on the table at all. Poor body language, slouching, putting your head down like this, moving a lot in a distracting way. These are some common interview mistakes. And not following up, meaning the most appropriate thing to do after an interview is to send an email saying thank you for your time. Maybe if you haven't heard from them in a few days, following up, check in with them. Am I still in the interview process? I see that you guys have questions in the chat, and I'm gonna come back to these. However, I want us to start first by watching a video. We haven't done a video yet on this in this latest series. So you're going to have to tell me if it works. But I want us to watch this 3-minute video. It's a video of a bad interview. And afterwards, I'm going to ask you and tell me what are all the mistakes made in this interview. Is everyone ready? Yes. Thank you, Fela, Mira, Celia. Okay, good. Tell me if you can't hear it, but I think the sound should come through okay. Here we go. Can you guys hear this? Oh, you're all saying no sound. We can't hear anything. No sound and a delay. Uh-oh. Maybe I shouldn't have been adventurous in my very last session to try a video. Let's try this again. Okay. Okay, let's try this again. I don't know if this will work.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi.
It's nice to meet you. Thanks for coming in for the interview today.
Thanks. Nice to meet you too.
Okay.
Yeah, great. So I've had a chance to take a look at your resume, and we're really impressed with the experiences you've had in logistics.
Yeah. Well, I've worked in lots of places since my kids have started school.
Okay. So would you be interested in upgrading any of the skills you currently have as they relate to programs in our job ad?
Well, with 3 kids, there's never enough time, but I could manage some work if I get the work. I could try to take weekend courses when the kids are with their father. I know that my work in AS 400 is still current, but I could likely update what I've done in ERP applications.
Okay, yeah, you certainly sound busy. Do you find that working with others comes easily to you, or do you prefer to work on your own?
Most often, I'm better on my own because I can set my own pace and try to meet deadlines that way without relying on others who sometimes don't make the effort.
Okay. So would you say that you've taken the lead on team projects in the past? And if so, could you provide a few examples?
I've just worked in small offices in the past, so mostly I've just been given tasks and done them on my own without having to bother working with others. It's just faster that way.
Okay. So Barbara, those are all the main questions that we have for you today. Are there any questions that I can help answer?
Well, I'm always worried about things like benefits. I'm guessing you have a dental plan. Does it cover braces? My son is going to need them in the next year or so.
So we definitely have a comprehensive benefits package specifically related to our dental coverage. The only thing is that our orthodontics coverage is only for full-time staff members.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions?
Can I work from home? My youngest is still in daycare, and I could save money this way if I worked from home, say, 1 day a week.
Okay, so one of your children is still in preschool?
Well, she'll be in school next year.
Okay. So I can definitely see, Barbara, that you're very interested in this role and our company. One thing I'm noticing in your resume here is that we don't have a list of references. Is that something you'd be able to provide?
I don't know if my most recent company has anyone in HR who can help, but the company I worked with before I had children, I'm still in touch with them.
Okay, perfect. Any information you can provide on those recent placements would be great and would certainly be helpful for us. Any other questions?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, it's nice to meet you, Barbara. Thanks for coming in today. I'll be in touch in the next week or so once we finish up all of our interviews.
Right. Well, thanks. I'd like to hear soon.
Okay. Thanks, Barbara.
All right, everyone. Discussion time. What did she do wrong? I read no eye contact, inappropriate attire, poor body language. She didn't make an effort to ask questions. Very good. Her only questions were about benefits for herself, health coverage if she could work from home, but no questions about the job. She didn't look like she cared for the work at all. She was unsure of her own resume facts. Very good. She was complaining. Absolutely. She didn't seem interested in the job. And we knew that from the body language. We knew that from the lack of questions. She did get too personal. She talked for a long time about her children. She seemed maybe lazy. She seemed nervous. She definitely didn't seem excited. She mentioned her kids every time she got the chance. That's true. I don't know if you noticed, but when they asked her the question, did, can you give us an example of working as a team player? She said, basically, she said, no. I mean, she said, oh, I did projects on my own in the past. Well, that's a way of saying, no, I can't give you an example. We always want to try to answer the question. If you don't have an example from work, give us an example from school. If you don't have an example from school, tell us about being a team player with your family life. But if the job description needs a team player, expect that you'll need to provide examples of being a team player. Even if you prefer to work alone, be prepared to talk about that you can work with others. Yes, let's see what else you guys said. Again, a lot about the eye contact. The eye contact was very weird. And her hands, she kept moving her hands. Yep. Let's see what else. She stood up very suddenly at the end, and you could tell it made the interviewer uncomfortable. That's wrapping up section. Miriam, very good. She didn't speak about her skills. She did not mention her skills. She didn't take the opportunity to share why she would be the good choice. She didn't ask questions, and she didn't make a good first impression. Okay, great. So now that we've talked a little bit about what a bad interview looks like, yeah, no positive energy. I wanted to do a quick check-in. So the next part of today's presentation, for the next hour, we are going to be doing a practice interview activity. This means I will ask the question and you guys will come on microphone and share your answer. We're going to imagine that we're all applying for a job together and we'll share an answer. Before we do this, does anyone have any big questions they want to ask? I know there were questions earlier that I missed in the chat about common interview mistakes, about the structure of an interview. I know I said raise your hand, but actually I prefer you write them in the chat right now so we can get on to our activity. Do we have any questions? How would you manage this frustration? Hasina, I'm not sure what frustration you mean. Okay, Kauthar asks a good question. What if this is your first job and you don't have any prior experience? So if it is your first job and you don't have any prior professional experience, then you need to rely on prior personal experience. What I was just saying about experience as a team player is a good example. If I'm a student or I just graduated and I'm in a job interview and someone says, can you tell me about a time you were a team player? I don't need to have a professional experience about being a team player, but I can talk about being a team player at school on a school project. Maybe I joined a club and I have an example from in the club. Maybe I have done some work at home with my father and I can explain how that was working with a couple of family members on a project. So what you do is you look for experiences in your personal life that will demonstrate the qualities that they're asking about. Everyone had a first job. Everyone has been in the position of not having experience. So the interviewers are really excited to hear about your skills, even if it's outside of a professional arena. Oh my gosh, so many questions while I was answering that. What is the appropriate vocabulary to use in an interview? Badis, I see your question. I'm not sure exactly how to answer that. I mean, essentially we use professional language. You can look at the recording of the first session that we did together for some business vocabulary, but I would just make sure to stay formal and professional in a job interview. Talking about salary, this is a very good question. I see Mohammed and Usama both asked, how do we answer salary expectations? So if someone asks you about the salary in the actual job interview, I like to ask them back, what is the typical salary for someone in that position? I do not negotiate salary in an interview. I absolutely do not. I do not negotiate salary. I do not negotiate benefits, including working from home, like the woman discussed. The reason is you can discuss these things after you are offered the job. The correct time to discuss salary and benefits is after you have an offer. If they ask you your expectations in the moment, you can share them, okay? But I would always use softener words like the word negotiable or around, okay? You want to see how much information you can get from them about how much they typically pay someone in that role. And you do not want this to reflect negatively on you. So the best thing is to try to move that conversation until after you have the offer. Because then they already have told you they want you. You're in a position of strength and you can negotiate. If you start making demands in the interview process, or if you start even, maybe you don't think it sounds like a demand, but you're talking about money, the interviewer will think, oh, they're only here for the money. We want someone who's here for the job, which we know is ridiculous because everyone works for money. We always are there for the money. However, you want to emphasize that in addition to what you're paid, you're interested. The interview is the time to talk about your interests. After you receive an offer is the time to talk about salary. Okay, I see Abdullah says, if the interview seeks to make you angry on purpose to test your nerves and temper, that would give me serious doubts about working there. This is why an interview is very important for you, the candidate. Manipulative interview tactics are a very bad sign for the workplace in the future. Of course, in the moment, I would try to not get angry, but I also would not accept an offer to work somewhere that interviewed me like that. Kauthar, what kinds of questions can we ask at the end of the interview? We're going to talk about that later. I see. Why is arriving for an interview late not good? It's not good because it makes it look like you didn't care about the job and you wasted their time. If I'm waiting for you 5 minutes for an interview, you've wasted my 5 minutes. You want something from me. I'm offering the job. So you arrive early. You are there on time. And if you are late, have a really good excuse. Okay, Amel asks about changing careers. I'm all about changing careers. You can see that I've had a few different careers between project management, business consulting or management consulting, and then being an English teacher. I think it's very possible to change careers, and I encourage you to do so if it will give you your dream job. Okay. Is it okay to bring a translator to the job interview? Not really, because the interview is also a language test. So to bring a translator demonstrates that you don't have one of the skills they need. If they do not require the language, I guess that will be listed. I mean, I can't imagine if you're reading a job description in English and it asks for fluent English, you cannot arrive at the job interview with a translator. If you're reading a job description and it's for someone to build websites and they don't care what language you can do it in and they don't have any language requirements, I would email the interviewer and ask for clarification on their language requirements. Never arrive with someone that they do not expect. If you bring a translator, ask ahead of time. If you want to bring anybody, ask ahead of time. But more often than not, the interview is also a language test. Okay, I see so many new messages, and I'm going to hope that we get to some of them. I see, is it okay to ask the interviewer personal questions? No, it is not. If you have another job, like a part-time one, do not bring it up unless specifically asked. Don't bring up any conflicts or potential conflicts at this stage because you don't have the job. If they offer you the job and you have a job offer, then you say, okay, let's discuss schedule. Do not discuss these kinds of specifics before you have a job offer. Okay, last one I'll answer. Fatima Zara says, what if the employer makes you wait for a long time? You follow up, and you keep interviewing. All of the power is in their hands. There's nothing you can do. Be polite, don't act frustrated, but also notice this because you are interviewing them. Do you want to work somewhere that takes 2 months to get you an offer? Something to think about. Okay, I see lots of questions about what do we do if we don't speak English correctly? Well, apply for jobs that don't need fluent English. Maybe they only need an intermediate level of English. If you do not have the skills for a job, you are not qualified, but you can work on those skills. So I do not recommend you apply for jobs that are beyond your level, as it is a waste of time if you don't fit the qualifications. And I encourage you to always work on developing your skills. If the jobs you want are in English, over the next year, work on getting better in English. But in the meantime, only apply to jobs at your current level. All right, I see you guys asking about why should we hire you? Why should we hire you? That's the next point. Let's go to the next slide. So we are going to talk about the Q&A section. This is the section that when we talk about interviews, we're mostly just talking about this section. It's when the interviewer is asking you questions like, why should we hire you? Okay, here are some of the common questions. And again, I have a little camera emoji if you want to take pictures of this slide because it has a good list of common questions that you should always prepare for in an interview. Tell me about yourself. Why do you want this job? Why do you want to work at this company? Why should we hire you? What will you bring to the company? What are your greatest strengths? What are your greatest weaknesses? What type of work environment do you prefer? What's your work style? And where do you see yourself in 5 years? These are super common. And if you want to learn more common interview questions, or you've prepared for these 10, you're ready for the next ones, I encourage you to research on Google. There's many articles about how to answer common interview questions. These are just the most common I could think of. So here's the activity, everyone. All of us, are going to be the same individual. We are all one person applying for a job, and we are going to practice together doing the interview. The position is the receptionist at a marketing company. These are the job requirements. You need to greet guests. You need to organize a calendar of meetings for the CEO. You need to transfer incoming calls, and you need to answer questions. There are additional requirements. These are about characteristics. You need to be well organized. You need to have good time management. You need to be responsible and trustworthy. Okay, this is the job we want. You, or me, all of us are recent graduates with no formal work experience, zero, walu. We studied accounting. We worked for a few days with a friend at our father's printing business. Okay, we really have nothing on the resume except that we're students, or we were students, and we've done a few days of work at a printing business. The first question is, why should we hire you? I'd like to take 4 people to answer the question. You can click this little hand emoji, and Emily's going to nominate you to the screen. Remember, the first thing you must do is unmute yourself. And tell us, we're doing a mock interview, so you are pretending to be this person. Tell us, why should we hire you? I'm gonna go to this slide for this question. Hello, how are you? Is it Celia or Abdelhamid?
Yeah, it's Celia.
Hi Celia, how are you?
Good, thank you.
All right, we're so happy to have you here.
Thank you very much.
I'm the interviewer. I've just asked you, tell me, why should we hire you?
So it's true that I don't have experience. I just get graduated from the university. but I believe I will be a good fit for these positions because I'm a hardworking person, and I'm learning fast. So I think the requirements for this job are not something very difficult. I can do all that very easy, pick up the calls and transfer them, gather the files for the CEO, and what's the last one? Also, my studies, which are about accounting, help me a lot can help me a lot in this kind of position. Just 1 minute. Yeah, answer question, organize calendars, and greet guests. Okay. So yeah, I believe I can be a good fit because I have I'm a I don't know actually. I'm losing it. Huh?
Okay, there you have my first comment right there, which is we went a little long, and what happens when we go long is we lose focus. We sort of lose where we were going, but I really appreciated, Celia, that you used the question, why should we hire you, to address the job requirements. It's very smart. So you did not just say, oh, because I'm amazing and I have this degree. You specifically said, I have the skills to do the job. That was very strategic, and I definitely liked that. My only other comment for you was to be careful saying a phrase like, the job requirements seem easy, because for the person hiring, maybe it feels a little dismissive, like, it's an easy job. We want to be very careful to not be offensive. So saying something, it's just a matter of vocabulary. Saying, I believe I have, like as you said after, what I liked better, I have the skills to meet the requirements. So we don't judge the requirements. We don't say if they're easy or hard, but we say, regardless of if it's easy or not easy, I can do it. We focus on that.
Okay, great.
Great job. Thanks for coming first. Very brave. Great.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
All right, let's have someone else do it. The same question. The question is, why should we hire you? And I'm going to go back to this slide so you can see who you are.
Hello, I am Osama.
Hi, Osama, welcome.
Thank you. Why you should hire me? I've done a research about your company, and I found that you are losing lots of customers. So I am bringing new numbers. I am trustworthy. I am well organized. I come to job at a specific time. I'm never late. I guess that's it. I'm sorry, madam. This is all I can do right now.
Amazing. Thank you, Osama. Okay, feedback. I really liked that you listed your attributes. I thought that was great. It's an exactly perfect response. Why should I hire you? You said, I'm organized, I'm hardworking, I'm trustworthy. Okay, you've identified that they need those traits or those characteristics, and you have them. I like your attempt in the beginning to be kind of a little bit of a salesman when you said, I can see you're having this problem and I can help you with it. But there's a slight problem here, which is it's very close to sounding a little insulting. Telling them, I know you have a problem and I can fix it. That's a risky strategy. It's very risky, and something you'd use at a higher level if you're coming in as a manager or someone with decision-making power. But at a receptionist level, when you can't really influence those high decisions, I don't think I would encourage you to take the strategy for this position.
I know, madam, but in previous interviews, when they asked me this, I went to Google, and they always the answer is you do a little research about the company and what and what qualities and assets and new assets you can bring to the company. So in the same time, you can impress them, and at the same time, you can be their savior. In other words.
Very good, Usama. This is exactly correct. You do research on the company and you say, I know your company needs someone hardworking. I know reception, or we'll say, I know that the client relations is central to your business, and here's why I'm good at it. But I do not recommend you say, I know you're struggling with client relations, and that's why I can help you. That's the difference. One is showing that you know about the company. The other is maybe a little too personal. It's a strong judgment. It's telling them their business isn't running well. So I definitely like, and I want everyone listening in the chat to really, I really love Usama's recommendation to research. But I don't recommend you share if there's something wrong or if there's a difficulty. Just focus on the fact that I've researched, I know you need someone hardworking, and I'm that person.
Well,
Sound
this
good?
is only for the class here. In the job interview, you will do that subconsciously, like a body language. You don't mention it directly. Thank you,
No,
Miss.
I think
I took a lot of your time.
Oh, that's fine, Usama, but I think you should mention that you've researched them. It's great to mention, I've researched you. I know that you're dedicated to having a great first experience for your clients. Say it. Say literally, I've researched you. You don't need to subtly hint that you've researched. You want to get those bonus points for researching. So I think you should say it, definitely. Just don't say your judgment of the company if it's negative. Don't share that.
Thank you, Miss.
Thanks, Osama. These are going really interestingly. All right, let's take another one. Amin, the question is, why should we hire you?
Hello. So, my name is Amin. I'm a new manager, a marketing student, a motivate one. I just see your announced position about the job, and I find that I have all the skills you need. So I usually always run the phone the phone
Interviews are a little scary, I know.
It's my first one.
No, you're doing great. Please continue.
I see all your requirement and I find it in myself. So I'm an intelligent social, and if you have any question, I'm here.
Okay. Amazing. If you have any questions, I'm here. Very good. Okay, I like the structure of your answer. I like that you specifically focused on your characteristics and you said, I have the skills you need. The next step is to list those skills. You should hire me because I have the skills you need. I have good time management. I am responsible. I am well organized. You can use the exact skills in the listing if you like. You can also add additional skills, okay? But this is a time to be specific. You should hire me because I have what you need, and then be specific. What is it? And Amin, thank you so much for coming on for your first interview. That was very brave of you. And you are showing everyone the importance of practice, because it gets much less stressful as we practice. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye. Thanks, Amin. We're going to do the last one here. I see Kauthar. Kauthar, you might be on mute. I think you have to unmute yourself. All right. I don't know if Kauthar's coming. I now see Sabrina. No, Sabrina's gone.
Hello.
Hi, Sabrina. How are you?
Fine. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. All right, you're going to give us our last one. Question is, why should we hire you?
Okay, I believe that a receptionist is a person that deal with customers, and I think that I have all the skills to deal with the customers and to convince them. In addition, that I'm well organized and I'm a very good multitasker, which is a good
Beautiful.
skill to be a receptionist.
Amazing. Sabrina,
That's
I think
it.
you get the bonus. I think you get the bonus point for what we call a short and sweet answer, because it was short, but it had everything I needed. You identified that you knew what the job was and what the positions required. A receptionist needs this, and I have, and you identified a few skills. I think my recommendation for you to go one step further is to mention why you have this skill, because you had some extra time. So you could have mentioned, I have amazing time management skills, which I learned as an accounting student when I, had 5 classes at the same time. Something, a good example. This is a great spot for a good example of saying why you have that skill, because your answer was short, you had time for it, and it would have brought it that extra level.
Thank you
All right.
so much. Okay.
Great job. Oh, you guys, you're doing amazing. All right, I see people in the comments really wanting to talk. Don't worry, we're still going. This is just question number 1. So we are the same person. We are still a recent graduate with no formal work experience. We studied accounting. We've worked for a few days with a friend at his father's printing business. Question number 2. What are your greatest weaknesses? Oh, this one's so mean. I hate this question. I'm trying to give you the hardest questions that we get in interviews. What are your greatest weaknesses? I need 4 volunteers. It's the same thing. You talk, and I give you a little bit of feedback. Is anyone gonna volunteer for this one? Ooh, Amira, we have a volunteer. Let's go. Abdinur, I feel similarly to you. It's not my cup of tea either. Leave me alone. But in an interview, we can't say no.
Hello.
Hi, Amira. How are you?
I'm fine. تحملتكم, everyone. Well, what are your greatest weaknesses? I think that as a recent graduate, my greatest weaknesses is the lack of experience. But at the other hand, is I have my motivation and good energy to level up and do all the work and get the maximum of experiences in this position.
Beautiful. Amira, that was a great choice. You chose a weakness. That's very evident. The hiring manager also knows you have no experience. So therefore, you didn't add an additional weakness. They already know you have no experience. It's already on your resume. So that was very strategic. And as you should always do when you mention a weakness, is you bring it back to the positive. I don't have experience, but I'm very motivated to learn, is essentially what you said. And I loved it. Great job.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amira. All right, someone else is up, but I just told you guys, I told you that this was the best weakness. Let's see if we can pick a different weakness and see. All right, Abdulaziz.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. This is my first time here offered with you.
We're happy to have you. Jump on in here. Tell
Yeah,
us, what are your greatest weaknesses?
I didn't think about that, but I think this is a great question. And to be honest with you, my weakness is I prefer spend a lot of time on reading, and I'm trying. I have small experience on this kind of work, but I'm trying to improve my skills in that and at the same time, I'm looking always at perfection things. So so this is hard for us, and but I will try and do my best to improve this. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Abdulaziz. So very similar, talking about the lack of experience. But one thing I want to be careful to say is saying I have a lack of professional experience is different than I have a lack of experience in this type of job. Because as we mentioned before, you can have a lack of professional experience, but you can have a lot of experience greeting people, answering questions, organizing a calendar. So when we give a weakness, we want to make it as small as possible. And the smallest way to talk about this weakness is to a little bit dismiss it. Sure, I have a lack of experience. However, I have everything else you need. So let's keep the lack of experience to the narrowest form. Instead of saying in a big way, I don't have any experience in anything you need, because that's a much bigger weakness than just my resume is very limited. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good job. Thanks for joining. All right, let's do two more. Sabrina, welcome.
Hi.
All right, let's hear. What are your biggest weaknesses?
Well, I guess I have a great positive point and great weakness, but for sure I'm not a perfect person, so maybe I have a time problem. I maybe get late sometimes. So, but I have a lot of, like I said, positive points.
Okay, thank you, Sabrina. So the first thing I want to say is if you have positive points, tell us them. Remind us at the end of the weakness section, always remind us the positive points. If you just say I have positive points, I have nothing specific in my mind. But if you say, I'm not great with time management, however, I never miss a deadline. Okay?
Yes. Yeah,
and
thank you.
I would say I'm not great with, or I'm working on time management. If you tell a potential employer that you're often late, especially for a receptionist position where you greet guests, I think it's too big of a weakness. We want something much smaller. Make it much smaller. Sometimes I get so dedicated to my work that I lose track of time.
Yeah.
It sounds ridiculous, but this question is a trick question. We do not actually want to hear a weakness that will affect the job. That's why everyone hates the question. It's not real. Don't tell us something you really struggle with, or make it much smaller so that it feels okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Sabrina. Awesome work. All right, let's do our last one. All right, Badis.
Hello.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you.
Let's hear, Badis. What are your greatest weaknesses?
Okay, when it comes to weaknesses, I think I don't have much weaknesses, except that I have a little bit of experience regarding my graduation, because I just graduated about 2 months ago. But in the meantime, I have really experience because I have worked as a volunteer in association as a receptionist, and I did a lot of management positions and activities as well. I'm a good in time management. I never miss dates or deadlines. I'm also a motivational person, and that's it. Yeah.
Okay, very good. So, Badis, I liked that you started off by saying, I have a small weakness and I don't think it will affect the job. And let me remind you of all my positive points. So I have a lack of experience in this one way, but look at all these other areas I have experience in. That was great. The one thing I will recommend to you is I want to recommend you change your first sentence. Instead of, I don't have many weaknesses, which can sound a little cocky, you know, oh, me, I'm perfect. You know, you don't want to sound a little cocky. So I recommend that you say, I actually saw a comment that I thought I liked how they said it. You know, everyone has something they're working on, or I realize this one piece is a weakness, okay? Just, we want to be very careful in an interview. Every sentence we're being evaluated for our personality. And that's the only one that stood out for me, that it could come across not the way you want it to, not as positive as you want it to.
Yeah, you got the point. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you, Badis. All right, before we go on to question 3, I saw a lot of questions in the chat. I want to scroll back up and see if I can answer some. Okay. Celia says, a hiring manager advised me to never say lack of experience is a weakness. Well, this is interesting. I think it's a good point that you can spin your lack of experience. So in our answers, we were practicing saying, obviously, a lack of experience, you know, could be seen as a weakness. However, it means that I'm fresh and I'm new and I have no bad habits. So you can explain, like, you may think this is a weakness, but it's actually not a weakness. The reason I like using it as a weakness is because you don't have to add an additional weakness. If you have a resume with very little experience, and then you, on top of that, say, oh, also, you know, I struggle with time management. Okay, now you have 2 things on the resume that maybe are not as positive as you want. The weakness question is forcing you to give them one. But if they already have one, I would recommend we lean into that. But as that hiring manager said, not referring to it as a weakness, using it as like a trick of, well, it's a weakness, and then going, but is it? But this is a trick question. So you have the right to be tricky too. Okay, they're tricking you. You can trick them right back. Okay, let's see. This is a tricky question. They're not really looking for your weaknesses. They just want to see how you answer the question. So you can't mention a real weakness. Who I am, to RE, I really love that. You really can't mention a real weakness. It's about making having a good answer to basically a trick question. That's very true. Fariel says a good strategy is to mention a weakness that you have, but that doesn't affect your job description. Very good. So like we talked about, if you say you're late, that will affect your job. If you say, sometimes I'm so dedicated to my task that I miss lunch, that doesn't affect your job at all. It's about time management, but you have not put in their heads that you would do something that would affect your job. You're saying my weakness would only affect me and then I can't eat lunch that day. Just a tricky question. Aisha says, can imposter syndrome be mentioned as a weakness? That's a tricky one, talking about building up confidence. I mean, it could be good because it doesn't necessarily affect your work performance, but it can be hard depending on if it will be seen as too emotional to talk about that in a job interview. The best advice I have is to be careful, to assess the setting that you're in. If you were with the U.S. Embassy, I think that would be actually a very great answer. Maybe Emily wants to jump in and say yes or no if she agrees. If you're talking to me, I would be really happy to see that answer, because it would show me that you're conscientious, you're working on yourself. But in a more traditional setting, a big multilateral, multinational company, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Okay. Oh my gosh, so many new messages. I can't read them all. Ilyes says, I saw that no one said I'm trying to improve on my weakness or improve on this problem. Well, I think the lack of experience and then getting experience is sort of self-explanatory, but you have a very good point, Ilyes, that this is a great way to frame the question. Here's my weakness and here's how I'm working on it. Again, always going back to the positive. Oh my gosh, I just missed everything.
Can I add something to that too? This is Emily here from the U.S.
Please, please.
Someone also just wrote in the comments that a good tip might be to say, kind of, you know, their suggestion was, I have a problem delegating. I take on too many tasks myself and I have a problem delegating. And kind of building on what you said, I think a great way to address that, if you say, oh, I take on too many things myself, I have a problem delegating, to give a specific example of when you did that before and the lesson you learned from it. Because I think this question, it is totally a trick question, but it's a little bit trying to find out a lesson learned. So you can say, oh, I sometimes just want to do all the work myself and I don't delegate. In fact, I once, insert your example here. It could be an example from high school, from university, from a job. You know, I had this big task. I stayed up all night working on this website launch and I made all the slides myself. I made everything myself. And I realized the next day that I had all these people on my team who were totally capable of doing it. I just stayed up all night doing it because it seemed easier to do it myself. I realized I was wrong. It actually probably would have been easier if I had asked other people. So that's something I'm working on. So you're saying you're working on it and you have an example of when you learned that in the past.
Awesome. I also have just had to use this opportunity to look in the chat. Badis, you did a great job. It is super normal to get stressed in interviews, and that's why practice is so important, because we learn how to deal with the stress. I saw someone else mentioned, Salah asked me what would my answer to this question be. I think, and Aisha asked, is it okay to lie? I think you can exaggerate a weakness or say something that you know they want to hear, because it is a trick question. They don't really want your weakness. So I don't think we need to give them, like, bare our souls and tell them exactly what we're truly struggling with in our lives. My question to this is about, my answer to this is about perfectionism. And I give you all permission to use this one. It's the classic answer to this question. And it's just because it's like Emily said with delegating. When you say, I don't delegate enough, I take on too much work, you're saying, like, I'm too good of an employee. I stay too late. I do too much work. I'm too amazing. So the perfectionist answer is the same thing. I care too much about doing a good job that I work on the weekend and in the evenings and this and this. And really, I recommend you guys use the perfectionist one. It's kind of a classic for the weakness. If you can't think of something, it checks the box of being something that you can struggle with, while at the same time, rarely a weakness for the business. A business has never gone to an employee and said, you're checking your work too thoroughly. Your numbers are too exact. So if you can't think of anything, I recommend perfectionism. Awesome. And yes, just to echo what Emily said, using this as a time to give an example is a very smart idea. Okay, question number 3. What type of work environment do you prefer? We're going to take 4 more people. What type of work environment do you prefer? Ilyas, welcome.
Hello, Miss. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Tell us, what type of work environment would you prefer?
Sometimes I trying to work solo, like alone, because I get solution for any problem when like I have clear mind. So I don't like to work in messy environment.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Okay. Okay, very good. So I liked that you talked about your preferences as they related to your work style, that you like things to be very organized. I think something to be very cautious of, and you're very courageous because you went first. And I think many people might be confused what this means, work environment. But we want to make sure you don't make it sound like you can't work in a team or you can't work in a big office.
Yeah.
We never wanted to, we never wanted to sound exclusive. Like, I prefer this one and I hate this one, because it's a gamble. What if they then say to you, oh, well, actually we have an open office plan and you won't have any privacy. You're in a corner. There's nothing you can say to come out of it because you just told them, I only want to work alone in a well-organized way.
Miss, sorry for that. The job interview is about any job or a specific job?
This is the receptionist.
Ah, okay.
A receptionist at a marketing company.
Sorry
what
for
kind
that.
of working
I didn't
environment?
notice. Like I was answering as web development, like programmer.
Okay.
Sorry for that. I didn't notice.
That's okay. You make a very good point, which is that depending on the job, the answer will be very different.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry for that.
When a programmer has headphones all day to produce their work,
exactly.
It's very normal to say, I prefer to have my headphones on. But I think for the receptionist, that's okay. Yes, no, that was a very interesting answer. Thank you. Let's take someone else.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, we have Redmi. Are you here?
Hello.
Hi.
And thank you for having me on board.
Thanks for joining. Tell us, what type of work environment do you prefer?
Well, I like a work environment that challenges me, because I believe that is going to enable me to learn more. And as a natural people person, I really like interacting with people. So that's something that I look forward to doing.
Beautiful. I loved it.
Yep.
You sounded very confident.
Yes. Just making, I'm just trying to make it short.
No, short and sweet, very good. The only thing I would add is at the end of the answer, I could tell you were hinting about how being a people person would make you enjoy the role of receptionist. And you were approaching that. I think you could finish by saying that very explicitly. And because I'm a people person, I think I will really enjoy the role of receptionist at your company. Okay, to be very explicit, just put all the cards on the table. They don't need to even make the final leap themselves from people person to receptionist. You say, therefore, this work environment would really suit me.
Absolutely. Thank you for the feedback.
Awesome. Thanks for joining. Great job.
All right. Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers. I'd also like to point out, I think Redmi is maybe the name of the phone, and I'm just calling it the name of the phone.
Yeah, my name is Abdul Kadir, but you can call me Kadir.
I thought you were about to say you can call me Redmi. I was like, no, I prefer Abdul Kadir. Well, something that Kadir also raised was, and what I love about Ilyas and Kadir's answers is they show how this question can be interpreted very differently. So for some people, they talk about working independently or in a group. Other people, they talk about having it be noisy and loud and busy or quieter. Okay, so you are free to interpret these questions in slightly different ways. Awesome. Thank you, Kadir.
All right, thank you.
All right, next we have Sarah. Hi, Sarah. I think you need to unmute your mic. Hello?
Hello.
Yusra, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome, and tell
Thank
us
you
what
for
type of
having
work
me.
environment.
Okay, so if this question, I would answer like, I am the type of person who always try to do something by myself, since I truly believe in my potentials. But if any hard situation arises, I wouldn't mind asking for others' help, since I believe that my team members are talented.
Okay, beautiful. So I think for this one, what type of work environment? I think this one is a little bit merging into what is your work style, as in teamwork or alone, which I realize Ilyas was a little bit in that direction too. I just be careful because they might come back and say, no, we mean the physical environment or the nature of the office. But leaving that aside, the answer I really liked. I liked that you gave a preference and then you added, however, if I don't have my preference, I'm still okay with the second one. The one thing I will say is I recommend you make it sound a little more positive in teamwork. Instead of saying, I wouldn't mind working with my coworkers, I'd make it very positive. I'd say, although I am very comfortable working alone, I also love to work in a team, okay? To make it sound,
thank you.
It's kind of silly because of course we have a preference, but you want to make everything sound as positive as you can. If they're not asking you directly which one is better, try to make them both sound kind of good. This is why job interviews are kind of ridiculous. Never say anything the slightest bit negative in any way, unless forced to. Anyways, thank you, Yusra.
Thank you. Goodbye.
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 All right, I think we have one more on this one, right? Ayman, welcome. I think, Ayman, you might be on mute.
Hello.
Hi, welcome.
Thanks. Hello, everyone. I'm here. I want to answer this question about work environment. For me, I like to work in team because I like to meet the new people at work and make new friends and share about works and and everything because I'm social.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I think we can get some stronger vocabulary to say what you're trying to say. I really like the topic. I want to recommend the word collaborative. This is a great word. You're talking about a collaborative work environment. I think it was very smart of you to mention friends, to say, I prefer a friendly work environment. I'm a social person. I like to collaborate. Really, you're showing that you're someone you don't want a toxic environment. You are dedicated to having positive social interactions with people. I just think we need to work on your vocabulary. Okay, this is something I recommend, Ayman, that you practice. Practice that answer more and more. It will come out more smoothly so you can actually have a little bit of a more strategic answer. Okay?
Yeah.
But I like the content. The content is there. Good job.
Thank you, Miss.
Okay, let's continue our very last group question, and then we're going to go into the other the Q&A sections, or sorry, your question section. So where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? 4 volunteers, please.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
ACC, I think we still have Ayman on here. Ayman, you did great, but we're going to get a new voice up here. I see Abdurraouf. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Oh,
hello.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the ACCA also. All right, I will go just the typical one. I will start. In 5 years, I plan to still be working for you, and I hope to have gained advancement to a higher level. I plan to be a respected member of the team and someone who is seen as trustworthy, reliable, and capable of doing a great job on time and to a high standard. I would also be willing to help train up newer members of the organization when they join by sharing my experience and expertise if you would like me to do so.
Okay, very nice. So Abdurraouf, very professional, which I liked. It was prepared. Having an answer that sounds prepared is nice because you get 2 points. You get points for the answer and you get points for being prepared. So people feel, oh, this person did their research before the interview. You don't sit there going, huh, good question. And you think, no, you are ready to go. Something I recommend to push the answer even further would be to explain that you're dedicated to being in one company. So I think the first thing a hiring manager thinks when you say, oh, in 5 years, I'll be working for you, is they say, of course, okay. It feels very like, oh, they're telling me what I want to hear. So in order to convince them that that's truly the case, that that's actually true, I would give even more detail saying, you know, even though I'm early in my career, I want to learn and grow somewhere. I'm not looking to move around a lot. I feel really dedicated about putting my roots into one company and advancing into different departments. And I'd even have something more specific because this is a receptionist role. So if you can perhaps say, you know, my degree is in accounting. In 5 years from now, I'd like to have moved into the finance department of the company and perhaps even be involved in financial strategy discussions. When you provide those kinds of specifics, it makes the answer more believable. So that's what I recommend to push it further, but that was a great answer. Good job.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right, let's get number 2. I see Medzindin. I think you might be on mute.
Good evening, Ariela.
Hello, welcome.
Welcome, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Tell us, well, pretend you're the interviewee and then tell us, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I think the 5 years, next 5 years, I will be a boss. I wish it.
Is that it? I think we might be having connection problems.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Oh, I have bad connection.
I think we have a bad connection. But It definitely needs to be longer than that. I know I said short and sweet. Dean, I think it was just the connection. But for everyone else listening, you got to justify it. I want to be a boss, or I want to run the world. Is like, okay, why? And what do you want out of this? All right, let's take someone else. Dean, sorry for the bad connection. Who do we have? Ooh, a nameless picture. Let's see.
Hello.
Oh, Kenza.
Hello.
Now I see the name, Kenza. Hi, welcome.
Yeah. Hello, Ariela. Hello, everybody. So I'm glad that you invited me in this interview, and about where do you see yourself in 5 years? Oh, I'm an optimist, and I'm glad to be in the management because I have the skills, and I'm organizing person. I have the potential and social person, and I like to work with team. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. I think that sounds good. I liked, Kenza, that you added in more characteristics. So you took this as yet another opportunity to sort of sell yourself. That's great. In every question, remind people or remind the hiring manager why you would be great. I'd just like to hear more specifics about why you see yourself there. And I think I'm going to take the chance now to share my answer with the group, because we need to move on, and say that what I recommend to you guys, especially if you're new in your careers, is to not simply say, oh, I'll be working here, obviously. I think it's completely okay to explain that you have longer term career goals, or to leave it somewhat vague. So it's not just about the company. You could say something like, I hope to see myself working in a management position in accounting. And I would love for that to be here. But the first thing you mention is your career goal, saying this could happen at this company, but here's where I'm going in my career, because that is very impressive. That's very impressive for the hiring manager to know that you have a career goal and you are a motivated professional. It's not just about them. It's not just about their company. Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Thanks,
Thank
Kenza.
you.
Thank
you.
you.
Have a nice evening and take care.
Thank you. You too. Okay. All right, you guys. I was going to say one more thing. Oh, this was just about do not be afraid to say something that means you will obviously be leaving the company. I say this with an asterisk. The asterisk is cultural. I'm going to tell you in American and Anglophone business culture something. I'm not sure if it's true in Algerian businesses or even multinational companies, but in my experience, when someone, especially a young employee, joins and we say to them, what are your career goals, or where do you want to be in 5 years? And they say to us, I'd like to get my PhD. I'm really interested in this topic. Well, we know that that means that they'll be leaving us, or maybe it doesn't, but imagine it does. They share a detail that says, obviously, if I pursue this, at that point, I'll no longer be working for you. I think that we are often very scared of doing this because we think it will hurt our chances. But actually, turnover rates at companies are very high. If you put in 3 years at a company, that's a great amount of time for a new employee to stay. And I, as a hiring manager, would rather have someone motivated by their own career, and they see how the position with me will lead them to be able to get their PhD. Okay, I see that they'll be motivated to stay. They won't leave after 1 week because this job is an important building block for their career. So you do not need to pretend you will stay with the company forever. Explain something that shows why you'll stay with the company for at least a few years, and you'll be really motivated at it. I really recommend that, because sometimes by just saying, I'll definitely be with your company, it can feel like, okay, that's not true. That's not true. I can tell you don't want to do this. Da, da, da. Okay, you guys, as always, we've run out of time. So I'm going to do something really quick for you to take pictures of if you want to take a picture. This is a slide of questions that you can ask the interviewer. So when they say to you, what questions do you have for me? This is the next part I wanted to do together. Of course, we ran out of time, but these are great questions. And I recommend always you want to ask between 2 or 3 questions in an interview that are not related to salary or benefits or what time does work start, something a little more detailed that really pushes the interviewer to explain something to you. These are great questions. Questions not to ask. Don't ask about salary. Don't ask about benefits. Everybody, you did a great job. And I'm so sad we didn't get to finish the full presentation, but this has been a wonderful, wonderful experience for me. I did not imagine we would get as many people as we've gotten in all of these classes, that you guys have been active in the chat, that you've been engaging with me on social media afterwards. I hope these have been as valuable and interesting for you as they've been for us. And I know I speak for myself and for the ACCA when I say thank you for joining. Thank you for lending your time, sending your questions, being brave and coming on the microphone. We are absolutely thrilled with the success of the program. I know a lot of you want the resources and the PowerPoints, and there will be a follow-up email to this effect for everyone who signed up for the link. Thank you so much, everybody. We need another lesson as soon as possible. Well, who knows? Inshallah. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night. I have my mulud henna.